The aroma of lilies has always had a way of unsettling my stomach. Even prior to all of this, they held a special place in her heart. The ones that are white, the kind that resembled trumpets announcing a momentous arrival. Today, however, they carried the scent of a somber farewell. A farewell for what was once exquisite. A treasured memory. The lock clicked, a sound I knew well, followed by the jangle of keys, and then the gentle push as the door creaked open. I remained engrossed in the tattered pages of my book. Not at this moment. I sat in anticipation, attuned to the sounds around me. The sharp sound of her heels against the hardwood floor once sent a thrill through my heart. Today, it struck me like a hammer blow, each tap resonating with the broken cadence of my own heart. "Darling, I've returned." Her voice radiated with brightness. Excessively bright. I could sense the insincerity woven into that smile. The noise was jarring, reminiscent of nails scraping against a chalkboard. I remained fixated on the words before me, feigning deep interest in the narratives of imaginary figures, as my own existence spiraled into a comical disaster. "Oh look," she murmured, her voice now nearer. "I brought you some lovely lilies. I understand the depth of your affection for them." The obvious falsehood lingered in the atmosphere, a dense, oppressive fog. At that moment I finally raised my gaze. I managed to put on a smile, a compact, tense expression that likely resembled a grimace. "Those are stunning, Sarah." My voice remained steady. It was all too serene, I realized. Yet, countless years spent concealing my feelings had transformed me into a master of the craft. I observed her glide through the living room, delicately arranging the lilies in the vase atop the coffee table. She wore her typical outfit, a casual summer dress that always appeared slightly too bright against the beige walls of our living room. Her blonde hair, once a delight to run my fingers through, was flawlessly styled as ever, with not a single strand out of place. She was still Sarah, yet she felt like a different person from the one I had fallen for. At that moment she came to a halt. Her eyes grew large, her flawlessly adorned lips opened just a bit, and the hue faded from her complexion, rendering her as pale as the lilies she had brought. "Where is it? Where could it possibly be?" Her voice barely rose above a whisper, the once vibrant facade finally beginning to crumble. I understood precisely what she meant. The wall above the fireplace, once adorned with the grand framed wedding picture for 8 years, now stood bare and unadorned. I took it away just this morning. The hooks had vanished, the wall scrubbed immaculate, leaving no evidence behind. "What do you think is lacking, Sarah?" I inquired. With my voice remaining steady, nearly removed, I yearned for her to articulate it, to express the guilt she had worked so diligently to conceal. "Where is the wedding picture, the one we took?" She moved back and forth, her heels tapping anxiously on the floor, the noise echoing in the unexpected stillness. I finally shut my book, a substantial, weighty biography of Abraham Lincoln, and set it down on the coffee table. I removed it. She halted her restless movements and faced me, her gaze probing into my own, a spark of anxiety taking the place of dread. "What is the reason behind this?" I reclined in my chair, at last locking eyes with her. "Because, Sarah," I started, my voice remaining steady. "A photograph is meant to seize a fleeting moment, a cherished memory, isn't it? A glimpse into a particular moment in a relationship, and that image, that wedding image, it's deceptive." She flinched as though I'd struck her. "What are you referring to?" Her voice trembled now, the facade of composure utterly vanished. "It's an image capturing our moment together, on what was meant to be the most extraordinary day of our lives. A day that was meant to mark the start of an enduring commitment. It no longer reflects our true selves, does it? It's merely an image, a recollection of what has faded away." I observed her efforts to assemble the fragments into a coherent whole, the haze dissipating, revealing clarity. Her eyes narrowed, and for an instant, I caught a glimpse of anger, swiftly concealed. "You're aware." It was not a question. It was a declaration of truth. The profound impact of my words is finally being realized. "Indeed, Sarah, I'm aware." I allowed the stillness to linger, dense and weighty, the silent charges lingering in the air around us. "What is the duration?" she murmured, her voice scarcely rising above a whisper. "Sufficiently lengthy." I refrained from providing further details. I kept the discovery of the burner phone to myself, tucked away beneath the lining of her purse, or the myriad of messages and late-night conversations that vividly illustrated her secret existence. I refrained from revealing how I had carefully recorded every single piece of evidence, every tiny act of treachery, a profoundly emotional endeavor that almost shattered my spirit. "Who is that individual?" she inquired, her voice quivering. "Is it significant?" I responded, my voice devoid of inflection. "His name doesn't alter the reality of your betrayal, Sarah. The months of lies and deception cannot simply be wiped away." She sank onto the couch, her face hidden in her hands, the lilies left behind on the table. "I have no words," she wept. "The flawless exterior has finally crumbled. Do not," I instructed, "refrain from speaking. For a moment, simply pay attention." I retrieved a compact, rectangular box from the side table. It was different from the jewelry boxes I had gifted her in the past. The box was sturdy and made of thick cardboard, secured with a plain brown string. I set it down on the coffee table before her, observing as she gradually lifted her gaze. Her eyes, red and swollen, brimmed with questions, confusion, and a glimmer of hope. I observed her as she loosened the string, her hands trembling. Within, she discovered not treasures, but meticulously organized sheets of paper. Bank statements, phone records, travel itineraries, and a handful of glossy photographs that I had discreetly captured were all present. They lacked warmth and affection. These images encapsulated fleeting instances, secret encounters, and soft-spoken exchanges shared between her and him. Silently, she combed through the evidence, her thoughts unspoken. The reality revealed itself to her. Her face grew even paler as she grasped the depth of my understanding. The spark of hope that once danced in her eyes was snuffed out, giving way to an expression of raw, unfiltered terror. "Everything," I stated, my tone subdued yet distinct. "All your actions, each deception you spun, each clandestine meeting, everything is present, Sarah. Recorded." The burden of her betrayal finally descended upon her, and the sob that broke free was visceral, heart-rending. She gazed at me, her eyes filled with a silent desperation. Yet, there was no compassion in my gaze, a deep and overwhelming fatigue. I made a mistake," she whispered. Her voice trembled, thick with emotion. "A blunder?" I echoed, the words oozing with irony. "This was not an error, Sarah. This was a decision made. A lengthy, thoughtful, intentional decision. To shatter our promises. To ruin our union. To obliterate me." She remained silent. She merely remained in her seat, overcome. The reality became unmistakably clear within her gaze. "I'm departing," I declared, rising to my feet. "I have packed a bag already. I have initiated the process of divorce. Expect to receive service within the week." Among those papers, Sarah, there's a letter from a lawyer, describing the specifics of the prenup we executed on that day. The moment that image was captured. The day that you have stepped away from. I strolled to the door. There's no looking back. Abandoning her in that place. Enveloped by the remnants of her betrayal and her blossoms. The sound of her heels striking the floor used to bring me immense happiness. Today, they echoed like the final toll of a bell for something that never genuinely existed. Upon stepping outside, I inhaled deeply. For the first time in months, the air was refreshingly pure. The burden has finally been released. The fulfillment did not lie within her suffering. It resided within my liberty. The recollection of her pale visage, encircled by those pristine lilies, brought a sense of retribution more fulfilling than I had ever envisioned. I drove off, leaving her surrounded by the soft murmur of her own remorse, and the hushed murmur of a union that was never destined to flourish. And I felt, with a conviction that resonated within me, that I had at last found my freedom.